we may ask, we'll keep Tate Thabo, Itumeleng, and Ntombi. They can be, their audio can be on, and
Ntombi and
is off. Vulelwa, if you can put your audio off, and then we can get started.
Aren't you excited? I don't have my glass of something today. I don't know what's happening. Maybe
Because now we have to be in the office.
Yeah, that changes the whole thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. The time has already passed. 6:30 was the time when we're supposed to start. My name is Londiwe Mutabi, and of course, I'm not here alone. I'm with the handsome Lesego Mutabi, who also happens to be my husband. So we are co-hosts of the show. And you all know today, as per the invitation, that we are celebrating Youth Month, and particularly today, Youth Day. And we are people who discuss issues at depth. And today we are asking questions that are related to Youth Month and Youth Day being celebrated today. Our official mother company is called Itumeleng, and that means that we speak about deep issues. And we try, of course, to come with solutions from these issues. Now, we're not going to from these topics. We're not going to waste any more time because we do just have an hour to discuss everything and then allow our audience to have a chance to ask questions wherever they feel that they can ask questions. All right, so I would like to officially introduce our panelists today, and in no particular order, I would like to introduce Thabo Ndabeni. Thabo Ndabeni is a business consultant, and he is also one of the students who were student leader during the 1976 March. So I think this is a critical person to have in our discussion because we also want to understand what exactly transpired on the day. Of course, we hear about it now, but he was there to see it and be fundamentally involved throughout the proceedings. We're also joined by Itumeleng. Itumeleng Mokoena is a manager at the municipal office in the Northwest, and he's also a youth leader who is active in youth-related issues. And by the way, as much as some of us are not so young anymore, according to South Africa, giving the year 35 as the cut-off age, you feel 21. You look even younger. Itumeleng is also representing the young people at Itumeleng. And then finally, we have Miss Ntombi Koloti. Ntombi is also a businesswoman. She is also a facilitator and a speaker. Now, we specifically pick people that we know will add value in our show. And we did exactly that today by picking the 3 people that we've just spoken about. Now, if we could just give all of our panelists a round of applause and thank them for joining us here today. All right, we will kick off our questioning session, and we have quite interesting questions to ask you guys. Some questions the whole panel can answer, and then some of the questions we'll just direct it to a particular person.
I think the other thing that we would like during this time is treat it more as a discussion. If a question is posed to someone and you would like to add, feel free to add into that. Yeah.
All right, thank you for adding that, Mr. Mutabi. We are called That's Deep, and this is our 2nd episode. And as I'd mentioned before, is that we try to talk about issues that are deep, that relate to Black Africans in South Africa, most importantly. The first question going out to our panel is that it's been almost 50 years since the 1976 March. Would you guys say that the day is still valued for what it's worth, or do we just consider today as a holiday, a day off? What would the panel say? And maybe I'll direct this question to Itumeleng.
All right. No, thank you very much for that particular question. I think it's a relevant question and a very interesting question. The answer to that question is that, yes, indeed, the day is still relevant in a sense that we still have political freedom, because you would remember that in 1976, young people were actually fighting for a political freedom, because the apartheid government actually were imposing a certain language to be taught at school, and young people took it upon themselves to defy that and to say, no, we are not going to agree to that. We are going to defy that. So I think politically, the day is still relevant. But economically, I would say no, because young people are still excluded in the economic system of this country. And you still have a lot of, inequality that we are experiencing as a country, and young people are the victim of that challenge that we are actually facing. So I would say to that question, politically, yes, the day is still relevant. We are enjoying a political freedom because there is democracy in South Africa. We are able to vote. We are able to speak any language that we want to speak. But economically, young people, we continue to suffer. We don't have work. The unemployment continues to rise. We are sitting now at about 45% of youth unemployment. So it's a burden to us. We are not actually happy about the state of economy that our young people are facing currently. So that is my short answer to your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Itu. And I think we all in the same level in terms of acknowledging the lack of economic freedom. And maybe it's one of the things that we need to discuss further as we go on with the show, because we want to acknowledge the challenges, but also say what can be done to change the status quo. Because obviously the youth of 1976 did something. Surely there's something that we could also do to change the status quo. Thank you so much for that, Itumeleng. Now, I want to go to the next question, which is directed to Thabo Ndabeni, who was really involved during the 1976 march. And that question is, could you please, Baba, take us back to the day, the particular June the 16th, 1976? What was the atmosphere like? Where was your heart at? Where was your mind at? So that it gives us an idea as a group to say, what exactly was happening, because we hear about it, we read about it, we see visuals, but you were there, you saw it, you felt it. And may you just please give us an explanation of what was that day like?
Okay, thank you. Can I probably start from the question that you asked Itumeleng first?
Not a problem.
Okay. I have a different take in the answer to that particular question. The day should not be linked to the economic or socio-political situation of the youth today. The day is a standalone date on which we honor and remember and console the community that suffered on the day and 16 months from June 16 up to October 19 the following year. Remember, we have people, over 700 people died during that period, being shot at in the streets, 1, 2. We had over 20 people being killed by the security branch in detention during that same time. We also are remembering mothers who in the morning of the 16th woke up, went to work with the understanding that the children are going to school, they will come back. When they are at work during midday, they hear that there is conflict at home. When they arrive back, the children are no more. Take, for instance, Hastings, Ndlovu, or Hector Peterson's parents. They had gone on their normal working day, they come back, their children are no more. At the same time, look at the students that walk the streets of Soweto on the day. The bravery that they had. Somebody made an example today. All the children or the students that were shot on that day were shot in front, that is on the front part, not at their back. What it means is that the police were standing on the opposite end. They were carrying whatever they were carrying, stones on this other side, and actually engaging the system, fighting, not running away. So the day it's a day on which we honor the sacrifices, the lives, the loss that the Black nation suffered on the day. So I would, I'm coming from a standpoint that says that day should stand alone regardless of our socio-political situation today to any of us. That's where I come from. Answering your question then regarding this, the day started like any normal day, with students quite apprehensive because this has not been done before. Also not being sure that the thing will be well supported. But as the morning, the early hours of the morning, the hours moved on, there was then general mobilization. Students got out of their classes. One school went to the next, because as the guys were marching from Naledi towards Muletsani, Central, Western Jabavu, Dube, Mufolo, and towards Orlando High, they were sort of collecting each other, walking, marching that way. The mood was very jovial because it's almost like a picnic, because actually, in all essence, it was a peaceful march, a protest against the enforcement of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction. We left in the morning, like I said to other people earlier, as children. By midday that day, we had grown up to become adults because of the way the brutal system engaged us, because they started firing at us, they started killing us, they set dogs on us, police dogs on us, and everything. Hell, I'm just saying, the situation just became uncontrollable. So that would be the summary of I'll take questions as we go along.
I take that statement that you make, and Dr. Thabo, where you say we left home as children, and by midday we were adults. For me, that says that we stand where we stand today on the sacrifice that you and the other youth of that era made, and the sacrifice of your youth, you know, that you could no longer return home. You had to hide, or some people actually had to find another way to survive because of being afraid of the brutality of that system. And I think we often forget that, or even we do not know. I highlight the number that you say about 700 people died. And it takes me back to saying, do we really tell the story as it should be told? Because I can tell you, I actually didn't know the number.
Yeah, it's hectic. I think I concur with that, Babu Thabo, and I think that's why it was important to have a person like yourself in the discussion, because it's so I don't want to say glamorized, or I don't know, but the word slips my head to say that we're just seeing the forefront, you know, not understanding what was happening to the single human being that was there at the time. And for us as youth, some people, it's just a day to chill with your friends. To some people, it's just a great holiday, you rest at home. We are really starting to lose the essence of why things are. So the narrative that you are bringing, that Thabo, we respect, and even about the celebration of rather us honoring than looking at all these other things. Of course, there will be different people who will start making different changes, but as for the youth of 1976, those people should still be honored up until this day. So thank you very much for that very detailed explanation of how the date the day was. And for us, I think, honestly, more than anything, I don't think we understand the depth. I don't think, and I don't think it's just us, but just in general, the depth of the day is not really understood. Any last comments on that one, Tate Thabo?
Yeah, I would also, you see, there is a big difference between commemorating and celebrating. When you celebrate something nice that happened to you, or for you, for your family, and so on. When you commemorate, you pay homage, you pay respect to someone that paid with his life. It's something which I also want to highlight. The type of weapon that the racist regime used against us was live bullets, and the type of bullet that when it hits you, it explodes. So when it goes through your head, you see, when you look at the victims that died on the day and the subsequent months, you see a small hole through the head or through the body. At the back, there is a big hole, so when the bullet goes through you, it explodes as it exits your body. The intention is, yes, the intention was not to calm us down. The intention was to kill. The intention was to cower us. The intention was to ensure that they remain in power. And when you look at the reaction of the students, on the other hand, the students confronted that type of force with a dustbin lid and stones. So the growth I'm referring to is a growth in terms of your perception. You see, up until then, the racist government ran the country through tyranny. They instilled fear in everybody. And the reason they came with guns, they thought that when we see guns, then we'll turn our backs and run away. But they found a different breed of Black people. When they fired the tear gas and fired the first live bullets, they were then engaged. So the change was to change. We were, in the morning, we're fighting against the enforcement of apartheid. After Hector and Hastings were killed, we wanted our country back. That's the change.
All right.
Let me not paint too gory a picture, but that's what confronts.
And you know, we would. I think it's something that we need to tell our children. As you are saying, commemorate. We need to tell them what actually happened, and protect the story so that it doesn't lose its meaning as we go along. My next question is directed to Ntombi, and also Ntombi, what is the impact that you believe this day should have on us as South African, and more particularly to young South Africans?
Thank you very much. I'm very inspired to have Ntate Thabo as one of the panel members, having to do a bit of search on the history and the actual happening of the day. I want to believe that the young people of 1976, and looking back a little bit on the Sharpeville massacre, indeed there is a story that we need to tell. At the time, they were fighting for the transformation of the education system in particular, and a better life, for a Black South African which was oppressed. And now that we have the gains of their struggle, what is next? And I strongly believe with you, Les, to say we need to continue to conscientize and actively educate the generations after us. I believe that there is an opportunity to reactivate that spirit of 1976. You know, when you look at the bodies that were lying there, and I will keep on referring to the 1976 and the Sharpeville massacre and the Robert Sobukwe teachings and the reasons why they were fighting, I will still want to believe that it's a picture that we need to continue to educate, you know, our kids and generations to don't lose the essence or the significance of why it happened. Now the struggles are different, but the revolution continues to ensure that we keep on educating why we started at the beginning. I still want to believe that as young Black South Africans, we are not naive to understand, but the education system that comes from the family, that comes from the community, that comes from the society at large, you know, needs to be revived. The level of our consciousness needs to be, you know, revived one way or the other, and bring the living encyclopedia like Abu Thabo, you know, to come and touch lives. I would have appreciated if this session would have been more live, you know, so that we educate young people in our townships to activate their consciousness to say, let us not lose sight of the gains of this democracy, because we need to restore, you know, the reason why we started. So that is my contribution, and thank you.
Thank you, Ntombi, and I am glad that you linking up with the Sharpeville massacre. And just a few days ago, I was saying to Slow that I take reservation to the day being called Human Rights Day, because by calling it that, we forget what actually transpired on that day. I'm glad that you are linking the two to say that we mustn't forget how the story has continued. And yes, like you are saying, let's make sure that the young people get to hear the story. I think programs like ours and Titokang, we will share this conversation with as many youth as we possibly can. And
but I just wanted to add something, also Ntombi, on what you were saying, and a lot of it is about re-educating, resuscitating the meaning of what Youth Day stands for. I feel, to some extent, a lot of things that are color political are being dampened, so that it doesn't look like, you know. So we don't want to over commemorate or be truly present in what the day means, because we don't want to make it feel like, you know, and I think you speak a lot of consciousness that we are slowly becoming very diluted in our speech, in our action, and even coming out in the world and saying, this is what I stand for, because you don't want to be seen as going on the one side or on the other side. Because yes, we are fighting for some kind of single South African or unified South Africa, but to some extent the segregation is still there. You know, there are traces of it there, and such that people would rather not be on either side and just sit on the wall. But yeah, I guess with with time we'll get to how do we then help ourselves, because I'm not speaking for other people, I'm speaking for things where I'd rather let's just keep it not too deep, because then it might affect other people negatively.
I think it's that, and you can even see when you engage with young kids, and you start using certain phrases, they say, no, don't say it like that, say it like this, and you like, but that's not what it means. If the moment you change the subject or you dilute it, then you are losing the meaning of what it is.
I see Itumeleng has just
Itumeleng, would you like to add there?
Yeah, I would like to add there. You know, I agree to the latter speaker that we need to intensify you know, the programs that will actually educate young people about the significance of this day. But I still maintain that we need to couple that with trying to resolve the challenges that our young people are having currently. You know, I like something about the Premier of Gauteng, that Panyasali Sufi. You know, his biggest program today was to give young people jobs. And I've seen the Twitter there. He was saying, we are not going to speak a lot of English. Young people, please bring your CVs, which is something that I think, because now the times have changed. We have now moved to the new era where we are free politically. For me, I think we need to couple conscientizing young people with providing opportunities for them. Let's conscientize them, let's educate them about the significance of this day, but also intervening in their challenges. And we know their challenges is lack of opportunities and lack of access to a lot of facilities. You know, I'm staying in a village, in a very deep rural area. When you see things that are happening there, and the situation that is there is not a situation that you like, you see. So and the day was made to transform education. And when you go into the rural area, young people are unable to access facilities or digital facilities to access education, because currently as we speak, I'm at the office now because there's no network at home. There's no network at home. So, and for you to apply for NSFAS, for you to go to school next year, you need to apply using a digital technology. You need to apply online. You need to use online facilities. So what I'm saying is that let's deepen the knowledge of 1976, but also create an opportunity and resolving the challenges of young people. That's where I differ with the latter speakers, that we need to couple that with resolving the challenges of young people in South Africa.
I hear you, Itumeleng, and I think what we would want to get at the end of this conversation we are having is really we draw from the lessons of yesterday to say we woke up, we confronted this education that was forced upon us, and whatever it threw at us, we fought back. Now, with the same token, the youth of today should say, we are facing inequality, we are facing economic challenges, but let's not shy away from engaging those things. My question, which I think it's open for all the speakers, is actually relevant to our topic today. We speak of gifts of youthfulness. In 3 words, what would you say those gifts are? I would give an example and say time. As a young person, one of the things that you may have in excess is time. So I think, yeah, that's the example. Any takers to that question?
I think we'd really like to hear from everyone.
Yeah, from everyone, yes.
What 3 things would you say are a gift to a young person, so that the young person sitting and watching will be able to say, okay, I have that in excess. Yes, I don't have network, but I have this in excess and I can use that. Ntate Thabo, you're okay, you've got Mamiki. Mamiki, do you have a response?
Evening, I'm from church. So what I can say is that our youth of today, they have wisdom, knowledge, and power. When we read Genesis 1, it speaks about power and authority. And then the Bible also says, a young person, do not despise the days of your youth, because there is power and understanding. I wish our kids, our young people can know that at all times, or they've given power and knowledge and understanding. We know when we read Proverbs, it says, wisdom is roving around, looking for someone to get into him or her. So I wish our kids, our young people, the youth of today, they can know the power that they are holding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Tate Thabo?
Yeah, I would want to say first to Itumeleng, Itumeleng must be aware that history has the bad habit of repeating itself. So if you treat issues like something happens and then you ignore it because there are pressures of today, you don't warn the future generations about what happened in the past, it's going to happen again. So, but when it comes to the elements that I think the youth should have, the first would be agility. That is the flexibility to be able to move from one thing to the other. We come from a generation where everything was in silos. So if you do maths, you are a maths student, you don't do anything with general subjects and so on. But today, knowledge is integrated.
Yeah.
So what I would expect from the youth of today is the ability to move from one thing to the other, take the best out of it and run with it. The second is creativity. Today, knowledge expires. Not that in the past it wasn't, but the speed at which things are happening today, if you qualify maybe in logistics 5 years ago, if you don't continue studying, your certificate actually expires because the knowledge today is not the knowledge which happened when you qualified. So there should be a continuous level of creativity around the youth for them to survive. My last point is self-knowledge.
Yeah.
The youth must be able to understand themselves, know your strengths and weaknesses. And where you are not strong, try to build it. Where you are strong, increase. But you must have a serious self-knowledge. Thank you.
I so concur with every single one of those. And I mean, we are here where we are because we've at some stage adapted either agility, creativity, or self-knowledge. And I think the latter actually lacks a lot in our young South Africans. I don't want to dwell too deep into it, but I do feel that the overload of information also just, I think, overwhelms a lot of people. And it's not just young people. I feel good in general, the over accessibility of information is really overwhelming us. Ntombi has her hand up, so we'll go straight to her. Ntombi?
No, thank you very much. I fully agree with agility from Ntate Thabo. The second word that I'll add is resilience. You know, looking at all the African young leaders who have laid the foundation of liberation, all of them, they were extremely resilient, you know, against the bullets, against the system, against all the infrastructure, you know, of destruction, of killing a Black child was there, but they were resilient. And when you look at their character, all of them, they possessed a particular level of discipline, of execution, of executing their plans. The discipline of execution, for me, comes very key in all the opportunities that one may be exposed to. The last point for me, when you look at the history, all the African leaders, in their youthfulness, their ability to focus has won them the struggles that they were faced with. So resilience, agility, and ability to focus, that brings about, the discipline of execution in an organization and to the personal level. So those were the points that, for me, came very strong looking at, the struggles that we have to go through.
Thank you. That focus, that I would like to take on that focus. And by that, let's focus on, let me go back on this focus. there's this gentleman who writes a book on emotional intelligence. I forget his name, but he has a video on YouTube where he speaks about focus and how much we are losing the ability to focus. And if you do not have that ability to focus, you will find that you can easily give up. And so truly it's something that we need to keep and protect at all times. Itumeleng?
I mean, I just want to add, I'm sorry, I just keep
Yes,
adding,
yes.
but I'm touched by the discipline of execution. I think it is a concept that really stands alone, because we can all speak here, we can all be motivated, inspired, we can all be even given opportunities on the hand, but execution, it separates, the best from the rest, because if you don't take the action, there's only so much that can happen. And I think we are slowly falling into that idea of somebody must come and rescue me. And it's very paralyzing, and hence we might be experiencing things like mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, and things of the sort, because we honestly fail to execute, the things that we've said we would do. So thank you so much for that. I think, should we allow Itumeleng to add his thoughts on this question?
Itumeleng?
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you very much. No, I think the latter speakers have taken them all, but what I concur with them is that yes, we now have an access to participate fully in politics as young people, and we really appreciate the 1976 generation for ensuring that we participate fully into the politics. And secondly, I think the new South Africa brought us and institutions that we can utilize as young people to access some information and try to build from there, in a sense that we can create better lives for us. Institutions like your National Youth Development Agency and other institutions. And then now things are developing. We have access to technology that we can utilize, though we still have some challenges there and there, but things are better now, and we are grateful to the 1976 generation. So those are things that I can add to the question, but the latter speakers have covered them all. We really appreciate.
Thank you.
No, I think there's a lot that's been shared, guys. Maybe we should write a book, hey? I think, and I'm loving the fact that we have two different parts of the world, and some of us are sitting somewhere in the middle. We've got the young people, and we've also got the elderly who are able to sort of help us to navigate through this life. Half the time we feel like we don't know what we're doing, yet like Mema Miki has mentioned, that we have wisdom, and I assume that wisdom can be drawn from people. I see Ntombi's hand is up. We're going to take that question just before we move on to the following question. Ntombi?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point that Itumeleng is raising about, politics. And I'm glad that Thabo, maybe at some point, not even this session, could explain the understanding of the body of politics and how people love leadership positions without actually understanding the importance of activism. Mm-hmm. Because for me, a person can be in politics, occupy positions of leadership, but not with them understanding why it's important to be an activist. Because for me, an activist is able to cut across all societal issues and build their understanding across all issues affecting the communities. So I think at some point that Thabo will come back and teach us as young people to understand the body of politics and what is required from us as young people without saying, I'm in politics, I occupy this particular position. Therefore, you know, a lot of people who are active in politics, there are some issues that we really don't understand. So for me, it's a very interesting point that Itumeleng is raising. And my apologies, Leah, for intercepting your comment.
Thank you so much. You can see that we have a time when we have that Thabo Ndabeni. I think from even our first episode, we had an elder, and guys, the information is available. The only challenge that maybe we face is having that information packaged in such a way that young people can access it. Maybe it is out there, and maybe there's other things that are overtaking that information. But as you can hear in Ndate Thabo, you are a great asset, a great dime, a great jewel to this show. And potentially, as Ntombi has mentioned, maybe we need to be talking about other topics and trying to find solutions on that as well. But because of time, we're going to have to just go on with the questions. And I have a very in-depth question here, and I don't want to rush through it, but I just want us to really go into it and ask ourselves, because I think it answers a lot of things that we've been talking about already. So we'd all agree that the youth of 1976 did something pivotal for our country, for young people, for in general, for a Black person. And yes, the challenges that they faced then are not the challenges that we are facing now. And the question is, how do we, as young people right now in South Africa, come up with things that will be pivotal, just as what happened in 1976? So I want us to really go into that. We know that it was pivotal in 1976, but right now we're able to speak any language, so that battle was won. The question now is, we have battles that we are facing now as young people. What are those battles, and how can we create a pivotal moment once again so that history can write the year of 2022, year of 2023, this is what the youth of South Africa was able to accomplish? And maybe I'd like to ask Ntombi to answer that question first, and then we'll allow the other panelists to go into it as well. Ntombi?
You are live.
Yes,
You are live.
Yes, yeah, no, I got it. Yeah, my apology. You know, what are some of the battles? I was doing a lot of reading and preparations. One of the battles that I think we need to learn on, it's the power of our buying power. And I think Itumeleng spoke about it.
You're muted, Ntombi.
Muted.
We can hear you now.
You're muted again. You are muted again, Ntombi. Good.
Technology.
Am I now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes. The battle that I want us to learn is the battle that I want us to learn about as young people is the buying power that we have, you know, as Black young South Africans. I always take rounds to look at patterns of the opportunities that are there. Two things that I can mention, if we can win that battle of the mind, is the buying power of the tuck shop economy that we have, that has raised many of us as young Black South Africans, and the retail buying power that we have as Black young South Africans, and the general conduct and perceptions that we have. So for me, those are very important things that I think they are the battles of the mind that we need to find ourselves having to cross. And I think looking at the history of 1976 and before, the social ills were very manageable. And I think for me, that's where the role of the family, the role of a society, and the role of a community comes in to say, let's bring back the moral compass that many families used to have. How do we manage and eliminate, these social ills through the family system? So for me, there's an opportunity in changing the mindset and utilizing our buying power and using the community and society foundation and moral compass to deal with the social ills. I think the issue of the unemployment, we know about it, but there is still an opportunity. Looking at the fact that there are so many young people who've got innovative ideas of bringing solutions to economic challenges. But the biggest question becomes a mindset or an attitude to come together and realize our power.
Ntombi, you also when you are talking about our buying power. When you interact with people and you just look at how much other people are extracting from us as South Africans in our suburbs, in our villages, you realize that we are not awake. And the inability to come together and really use our buying power is something that we need to change. And I'm grateful that you are bringing that up. Hopefully one day we'll bring up that conversation on how do we begin to use this buying power and change the narrative of our economic situation. I don't know, is there anyone who wants to comment on that question?
Can I take it?
Yes, Ntate Thabo.
Yeah, I would like to make the following observation. Society today is generating a different type of a human being. A human being who believes that is an island by himself and can survive.
Yeah. Okay.
That the youngsters believe that when someone is successful, then he says, I achieved this. When in fact, whatever achievements you make are achievements from the sweat of other people. If you go to school and maybe graduate, it's not from, okay, your contribution is to the extent that you were able to sit in class, but who clothed you, who fed you, who housed you? Now, what then happens is there's this concept, where young people talk about black tax. And the fact that they call it black tax, it's also a bit problematic, is that when you succeed in life, you succeed because other people sacrifice. And when you climb up the ladder, you must remember where you come from, so that whatever fruits you derive, pass some of them to those that helped you to rise. The same applies to youth working amongst themselves. The tendency is for someone to buy a BMW so that his friends or his peers see him is driving a BM when the others are driving bicycles. But success comes from collaboration. If you've got a resource where you are able to afford a BM and your friend is riding a bicycle, try and see what is it that you can do to help your peer, so that when you rise together. The very same principle applies to all of us as Black people. That we need to be able to recognize the most important principle, that it's in our solidarity that anything will be attained. The fractions you see in the ANC, fractions you see in the PAC, in the BCM, and the new parties that have come up now, they continuously are fracturing because there's contestation for access to resources. When in fact, the opposite should have been the case. That should be contestation for delivery, so that Black people develop together. When they develop together, all of us grow up. When the money circulates, if the concept Ntombi, when the money circulates amongst us, no one wants to rise above others. We grow up together. We become wealthy together. We may not have the same amount of money, but our conditions are going to improve. Thank you.
I definitely share a sentiment with that. And when Ostobi was speaking, I wanted to say, Hori, I feel we're losing that community base. I don't even know who my neighbor is, and I don't care because I'm busy minding my own business. And maybe that's part of where we are losing it. And the isolation, the operation in silos is one of the things that I feel is really damaging anything. I mean, we have a concept your Ubuntu, and then right now it's flying all over like it's nobody's business. But when it comes to the African child, the African person, how much of that Ubuntu concept are we still able to apply on our day-to-day lives? Or is it just something that we write about on our social feeds and hear other people from other countries speaking about Ubuntu, yet we don't understand where all of that is? So I feel that having that family base, having that community base is something that really will help us to try and bring solutions to most of these problems. But more than us coming together, I see us really starting to work more in silos.
I think there's an African saying that says ditau tsa go tlhoka seboka di tlholwa ke nare e tlhotsa. I know I'm going too deep now in Setswana. What it basically means is that of saying, if people cannot come together, even the most simple thing becomes difficult for them. And I think we need to get back to that essence. But I think it starts in a family. It starts with trying to rebuild our families, and then it comes to the community. If we can try and bring more value into our families, however the construction of the family is, but if we can do that, we will move forward. I think this question we've answered it in a way. What lesson now we did? Given a chance to be young again, I still say I'm young, according to the Constitution. Given a chance to be young again, what is the one thing that you would have done differently? I'm 41, so legally I'm no longer young. So yes, what is the thing that you think you would have done differently? All those who have passed 35 can answer that question.
You know what? Let's not put an age to it. I just feel
I don't think that one is relevant for me.
Here I am trying to stand up for you to say, no, we don't necessarily need to put age to it. Let's just ask about your former self, in your current self. Okay. But anyway, it means that you'd like to excuse yourself from this one. So yes, you are excused, young person. So anyone from the panel who'd like to answer that question? Ntombi, your hand is up.
I would have learned more about why is it important for us to safeguard this struggle we fought for. I would have loved to learn to take arms in defense of the country. But now the things have changed. It's a battle of ideas. I'm excited on the point that Thabo is raising to say, the fractures that keeps on happening. It's not because people are fighting for the interest of liberating the people, but they're fighting for the interest of controlling the resources. If I was young, I would never forget why we started. For me, that keeps on coming back to me. Of course, I'm a bit older, but I would have never forgotten why we threw stones the consciousness, I will always pray that it must not leave me. The reason why we started, I would always say, let us continue to teach why we started. If I was young, for sure, I will still wish to throw stones.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Very well said, Ntombi. And I think everybody has something that they wish they could have done. And you know, guys, the part of packaging our information, making it accessible, and maybe not just accessible, also in making it interesting, you know, because I think we do Connie point where he was trying to say that, yes, we want to understand what happened, but we're so busy minding our own business and minding our own battles that we don't get the chance to really tap back. And yes, we want to tap back and understand how it all came to be. So packaging the information in such a way that it brings the essence of what it is, but also relevance to the Black South African right now. I think that becomes so critical. To where are the YouTube channels? Where are the TikTok channels that are saying this is what it stood for? Because this is how information is being shared right now with our youth. Whether we like it or not, books are still, of course, the most intelligent medium, if I could put it that way. But there's so much more that's out there already that young people are spending time on. And maybe we need to change how we are bringing out our information. Because Nami, also Ntombi, there's so much learning that's happening right now, even as we speak, that I just wish I had known better. Is there another taker to the question? Of course, we are interested to hear from Ndate Thabo, so you won't be able to go on this one without saying anything. Mamiki, I see your hand. We'll just allow Ndate Thabo to answer, and then we'll go to Mamiki.
No, my response would be that the experience I've had, if given a chance, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't. I don't know if time allows. Short, very short. When 76 happened, I was 19, right?
Yeah.
I was my Form 5, which is my last year at high school. I had a bursary to go and study science, paid for by NCR. I had an offer to go overseas the same time by IBM. So when I relate this to my kids to say there was this opportunity to me, then they say, but then why did you join the struggle and turn down those opportunities? I said, for me, the struggle was not a question of choice. As a Black person, what we did had to be done. So, because then it would go back to say, do you have any regrets having done what you've done? I don't have a single regret. Yes, the scholarship was taken away. I ended up in detention. I ended up as an accused for causing the trouble in Soweto, etc., etc. I ended up as a leader in the Azanian People's Organization, etc. Those experiences are life experiences that you can't get at any university. That experience, you can't get it anywhere. I'm listening to Ntombi, and actually even also Itumeleng, to say to them, I was inspired by Sharpeville. I was inspired by Bambata. I was inspired by Oliver Tambo. I was inspired by Luthuli. The giants who lived before us are the ones who made us do what we did. So I'm not changing anything. If I'm going to get younger and the issues present themselves the way they presented them then, I'll do it again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ndate Thabo. You know, when you say that it's something that had to be done, it hits hard because I realize that we are postponing giving ourselves to our communities, to our families, as if it's something that we can do later. And we lose that power that we have right now that Mamiki referred to, that while we can still run, while we can still engage on issues and really work with them, we would rather just focus on, have a single focus just on what brings bread on our table and forget about everyone else. So to hear you say that it's something that needs to be done, I hope all of us can look around where we are and say, what is that thing that just has to be done?
It's not optional.
It's not optional.
It's not optional. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you know, we always so humbled to learn in this show. What we're realizing is that we are just learning as we are going along. There's so much information that can be shared, and thank you so much for that. I would love to say someday that I have no regrets. I am just happy with the way things have been. But yeah, different strokes for.
Let's give Ntombi.
She was clapping her hands. Umamiki is no longer online.
Mommy is no longer on.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I think she maybe.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Hello, Mpo.
Hello.
The guy.
Good day, guy.
Okay. I will just welcome to the show. I will mute you so that we can be able to go on. We're almost at the end, and in fact, we have the very last question for our panelists. But thank you so much for joining us. And without me wasting any time, we will give just the audience to be able to ask questions when we've done with this question. But for now, I want to give out the last question to the panel. Our motto as That's Deep is our route to fruitfulness. So we are not really fruitful to the full capacity, but we believe that we are on our way to fruitfulness. And the last question is very much related to that. And what would you say would make our youth help themselves to become more fruitful? I know some of the things we have touched along the way, but what would you say are some of the ways that could help our youth to become more fruitful today?
Continuous learning. Continuous.
Yes. Continuous learning.
Things are changing. Things are changing much faster, much faster than when we were their age. You see that example is seen. You see it just by the cell phones we're using. 3-4 months, there's a new type of phone in the market. 3-4 months, the problem about too much information. The only way you can deal with too much information is by teaching yourself how to discriminate against what is and what is not, which is opposite to us. At the time we were yearning for information, going to libraries today, I sit in my corner with my 5-year-old grandson and say, let's Google and check. Now, what my grandson must be able to do now is, with the information available, how do you discern fact from fiction? You can only do that by continuously being on the ball in terms of learning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Discriminate. Oh, wow. If only we had more time, we would go into more detail. Thank you for that. Itumeleng, also Ntombi, would you, any of you like to add to that final question?
Yes, no, thank you very much.
All right.
I'll
come after Ntombi.
Okay.
Okay, my apologies, sorry Itumeleng for that. My last parting words, I just took them from, and I think somehow Lentate Thabo, we keep on learning from him, from O.R. Tambo, when he said, The children of any nation are its future. A country, a movement, a person that doesn't value its youth and children does not deserve its future, close quote. One of the things that I have personally started doing is to offer, that unstructured support to any young person that I meet. It's part of the family system where if there's an opportunity to lend a helping hand to a neighbor child, I do that. And it's part of saying the revolution must not stop, because our struggles as a Black child are not yet over. So we keep on sharing, taking from the spirit of Ubuntu, because if we don't share, these little gains that we have will never be protected, because the more the vulnerable your neighbor becomes, the more it exposes you to lose the little that you think you have gained. So the family system that we have adopted is to love and to share, with those who are close to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question. What I would say is that road to fruitfulness, we cannot detach education from that question. I think it starts with education. Young people need to be educated, and when I'm saying education, I don't mean getting certificates and so forth. Knowing where you come from and knowing where you are going, it's very key because it's a road to fruitfulness. Now, our young people need to be well informed. When you check on what young people are doing now, they are on WhatsApps for no reasons. They are watching irrelevant programs on TV and so forth. So now young people need to be educated, and young people need to be active into politics or community activism. Why I'm saying that is that we have what we call a National Youth Development Agency, which has three, fundamental objectives, which is to advocate for young people to be integrated into youth development, in a sense that they are participating in all spheres of government, the private sector and the civil society. And then you have another key objective to that is that NYDA seeks to encourage young people to participate in the development programs and to participate in a civil society engagement. So now, I always say to young people, please open NPOs so that you can create employment. You can also assist our communities with services, because when you see the roles of NPOs, they are actually assisting government to provide services to our people. Like I was saying today, I was attending one program I was invited to. That NPO of young people were distributing sanitary towels to young women or young girls. Now, it's a service that we want as young people to be done for free to all our young girls. Now, if we have such NPOs that can provide such things for free, you are actually assisting the government to achieve what it needs to achieve. So young people need to be active in economic system of our country. Young people need to be active in politics. They need to really be active and in all sectors that affects that we actually find in South Africa. So that's what I can say. It's a road to fruitfulness. Thank you.
Thank you, Itumeleng. On that note, I would like to give a chance to our guest, Vulelwa Dlova, if there's anything that you'd like to ask, and Tumpo, if there's anything that you'd like to ask or comment before we pele ga re garela ka Setswana. Yes, Vulelo.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for facilitating this meeting. It's very insightful. How I wish we can go on and on and on and on and on. Mine is not a question, it's just a comment to say we need more leaders like Abu Thabo, who are saying, even if it can be another 1976 tomorrow, I'll still be the leader I am. Because it means those are the people who understand why they are leaders, why they are in politics. Because politics, if there's one thing that our leaders of today do not understand, is the fact that it's servant leadership. They're here to serve. And most of the times now we see selfish people. And sometimes it's really a shame. It actually breaks my heart when our leaders still quoting the likes of Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, Nelson Mandela. And you ask yourself why these people are still quoting those leaders, because those leaders were selfless. They didn't care about what they are going to benefit. All they cared about are the people. So it is so unfortunate that even the young people of today, their role models are the very same people who are selfish now. Because those are the leaders of today, and those are the leaders that are looking up to. It's really such a shame, but the meeting of today is not for that, to put a blame, finger pointing and all that. We are finding solutions. So really what the last speaker is saying, that he is in a business of encouraging young people to open NPOs and so on and so forth. So really, if we can get the young people being active in doing anything and everything that they can benefit, or that can make them to benefit, and also to contribute to the economy of our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vulelo.
Would you like to say anything or ask a question?
No, thanks, and I'm sorry to join the show very late. And greetings to everybody, all the comrades there, including the host, Slow and Less. I can't agree more with those who are arguing for continuous knowledge search to improve and better the ability of our youth to match the demands of today in life. Secondly, I can also argue that the kind of education that we are imparting to our young people, to a larger extent, is not helpful. It's not, a skill-based education that would arm them with skills to make a living out of their own, that promote entrepreneurship. So I think education it will be very key to revolutionize our education, so that they become entrepreneurs. What it is asserting about opening of NPOs. You don't receive that kind of education at the level of the school. All what you are taught is that you must pass history, you must pass physics, go to university and so on. No one says to you, go to a college, technical college. So I think in changing the mindset, we need to move to that direction. But thirdly, is the moral fiber for the entire society. Now, you also understand that family is the unit of society.
Sorry, ba bangwe ba rona ga re Batswana ba gaetso ra leka tota mara yaanong ga lo tsenelela yana lo a re latlha. Please, please,
I'm really sorry.
come on.
What it entails, it simply says that our parents are exemplary to how I should behave as a child growing in a family, which is a unit of society.
Okay.
If we don't debunk our responsibilities as families, we'll always also blame society, no, or government. But what are we doing as families? Bring up your own kid. Morally, are you proud that I'm a good example? Are we teaching them even to resist the temptation of being misled outside the home state? When at school, when at crash, when playing soccer in the village, and so on. We need to go there to ensure that our family units are strengthened so that you produce a young person who would be able to be morally stand up. I think that's the contribution that I can make. In addition, lastly, let's promote sport. You know, even you look at PSL, some of us were recruited from the school playing soccer. You know, we're playing here in Mafikeng, and so on. But the problem is that there's no sport at school. But what kind of teacher do you have? You know, do you have teachers who on Wednesday go to the ground with the kids, play with them, coach them? Or do you have a teacher who knocks off? The only pressure that we have is matric results today. One concept that I don't agree with. Hey, results, matric results.
Well, you should have actually joined us very early because I mean you're sharing very important nuggets. And unfortunately, because time is no longer on our side, I'd just like to say thank you for that input. But I think at the core of this matter is that we all need to look at things that we can be able to do and control. Yes, there is a government. Yes, there is a society. Yes, there is the internet, there is social media. But what is it that we can do to change the status quo, to change the way things are happening? And I love what Mpho has said now, just to seal everything up, that it starts at home. We can't expect the world to be teaching our children things, but in fact, we should be the one who are imparting knowledge. And I think that gives us homework, Sonke, to go home and say, are we doing right by our children? First, we need to educate ourselves before we can try and even attempt to educate them. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done by just the people who are in this meeting, let alone those who are at home. I would like to thank everybody for being here today, spending your time with us, especially those who have actually had to go to the office for issues like network. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know if Ntate Motsabi will have any last closing comments.
I would really like to thank our panelists and those who joined us. I think just the conversation today has brought up so many future topics. Mpho, you know, you are bringing up that topic of saying, what are we teaching our children? And I think we've got young kids ourselves, and sometimes we feel like, hey, it's like we are winging it. We don't know what we are doing. And maybe one day we need to speak to people who have raised children, you know, and speak to our grandparents and find out what are the things that we really need to impart, because we are busy, and sometimes you find that we are far away from grandparents. Both parents are working, and we have very little time to address our kids or help them through this challenge that you just raised. Ntate Ndabeni, re lebogile thata, re ithutile go le gontsi. Ntombi, thank you very much. Itumeleng, thank you, and continue doing your good work that you are doing at the municipality. We hope that one day, somehow, we will meet all of you. In Potchefstroom, I think you are in Zirast, if I'm not mistaken, Itumeleng. And Tate Thabo, wherever you are, hopefully we will meet, God willing. Re lebogile thata bagaetsho. Mudimukyo Apula.
Thank you.
Mudu Mohalele.
Thank you, Slay and
Thank you
Les.
very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 We'll allow everybody to log off. Thank you. And then we'll end the meeting. Oh my goodness. Oh God. Oh man. Ntate Thabo.
Amen.
Hi, good night, Papa. Thank you so much for being here and for all the information and education that you come with. I think there's so much work that needs to be done, but
That's very true.
at least we are en route. We are en route. Yeah. At least we are en route.
Enkosi kakhulu.
Siyabonga.
Sabong.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.